Hi everyone, my name is Eduardo Galak and I will present In un dulce cuerpo a cuerpo and in a sweet body to body construction Argentine sporting identity through tango and the Dempsey Firpo fight 1923. I really want to first thank to the NASH committee for this opportunity. I would really like to be there with all of you, but I'm presenting this in a remote video. The first that I want to say that this presentation continues the previous one that I made in the last NASH. The idea is to think about the relationship between tango and boxing from a particular match, the so-called fight of the century between Jacques Dempsey and Luis Angel Firpo. A fight that had many repercussions for what happens above the ring when Firpo sent the champion Dempsey out of the rings for several seconds, but also what happens outside of the boxing ring. On the one hand, because it was the first fight of a Latino for the world champion, so we have a racial discussion. And second, because of the repercussion about the national identity of Firpo as a hero in some artistic representation, literature, cinema, paintings, and for this presentation, music. So, the relationship between music and boxing has a long and rich history. Just to name two examples, Bob Dylan songs, Who Killed David Moore, or The Hurricane, or Simon and Garfunkel, The Boxer, can explain this phenomenon between music and boxing. But tango too has been subject of this phenomenon. The tango, that European music, but really linked to the Argentinian identity, more specifically to the porteño identity, the port of Buenos Aires, because it was made by immigration, by the mix, by the hybrid. As a good example, Carlos Gardel, probably the most renowned tango musician of the Argentina, sing Knockout del Amor, can be translated as Knockout of Love, and he says like it's in every relationship, also in tango, in a sweet body to body, en un dulce cuerpo a cuerpo, like boxing or dancing tango. The 20s was one of the golden eras of the tango for the porteñismo, for the time in Argentina that played a lot of tango at nights. Another instant of this articulation was the career of Firpo, but also the match of Firpo with Dempsey. Because, like I said, it was the first Latino who fought for the world champion, and there was a national but also racial identity struggle in that boxing match. As Brian Bank posted, Firpo embodied the shifting racial boundaries that signaled a transition in which ethnic whites transitioned from being undesirable to desirable citizens. The pugilistic context was presented not only as a world champion prize fighting bout, but also a metaphorical representation for the struggle between civilization and barbarism. Luis Angel Firpo was well known as the wild bull of the Pampa, or simply the wild bull. It means close to an animal, close to barbarism. Some sources presenting him this contest as a contest between the United States and Latin America, and he was called, like Jose Corpa said, as a civilized gorilla, or a primal might and brutality, a Neanderthal man in a faded bathrobe, or a caveman in a maroon tights. In most of the promotional pictures of and images of Firpo, he was seen serious and happy and tough, unlike Dempsey, like I will show in a minute. But also in Argentina, he was presenting like a gaucho, that is like opposite to the American cowboy, trying to show the country's virility and the Latinity, masculine, virile, strong, and tough again. This is Dempsey, and in North America, there was a really fear of a North American losing in American soil to South America, as Marco Antonio Martinez recovers journalistic notes from the period. There was an idea not lose to someone of a non-Asian race. David Lafevre posited that Firpo and Dempsey were global symbol of two opposite races. And in short, the decision to choose Firpo as the Latino representative to fight was based on a clear idea. Firpo was a fighter not white enough to avoid causing debate, but not black enough to nullify it. So, as I said, Dempsey is almost always photographed as happy, friendly, family person, and also masculine. However, there is something interesting about this fight, the artistic dimension. My previous NASSH presentation, I present some of this on pictures and on paintings. Here we have the Billows famous painting. Here we have Dempsey jogging himself like he was catching him before the famous fall, but also drawings, literature, and tango. That is the main thing that I want to present. There was a tango dimension on this fight. First of all, the 20s was one of the golden decades of tango in Argentina. I look for some sheets that refer to first boxing, but specifically to Firpo. And there's first two important things that I want to say. Firpo has a cousin, Roberto Firpo, who is at the image. He was a really important pianist, band leader, and composer. He made more than 3,000 recordings and was one of the members of the Firpo Canaro orchestra in a time that the live orchestra was really important. He was his cousin. They don't like each other because Firpo Roberto think himself as an artist, and he thought that a boxer guy is someone close to barbarism. The other person that was really close friend of Luis Angel Firpo, the boxer, was Carlos Gardel, the most renewed tango singer on those years. So, through an archival work in the National Library of Argentina, it was possible to identify a set of tango songs about Firpo and about the fight with Dempsey. There's a lot of things that are lost, but I will present what I found. First of all, this is also Firpo. I put it on the background. It's a song composed by Juan Bautista Bachicha del Brollo from 1923. Carlos Piñero Iñiguez wrote in 2013 that Luis Angel Firpo a biographical book of the boxer, and he says that there's another one that is called No se puede con Angel Firpo. You can't beat Angel Firpo. That is a kind of gato or milonga, a song more related to the folklore of the porteñismo, and it says in Lunfardo, a national slang of porteñismo that is at Genova, like today's presentation of Juan Cibaja mentioned it. Immigration made a new language that is really common on tango. I will put, yeah, better. Like I was saying, the lyrics says, porque si nuestro país exporta trigo y maíz, exporta también castaña, because it's our country, export wheat and corn, it exports also chestnut. Chestnut is a Lunfardo way to call a blow, so we now export punches. Next one. Another tango song, Hasta Dempsey no para. it's interesting that is before the famous fight. Is from 1922 and is from Alviro Bonifacio Fernandez and is only musical. And this is Dempsey, that is a song about Dempsey, previous of the fight, and we can mention this one and Firpo from 1922. This one Dempsey is from Juan Bautista Guido from 1921, and Firpo is from 1922. They're both played with typical live orchestra of tango. So, and in this presentation, we knew only 5 tangos dedicated to Firpo and his fight, but however, searching for this presentation, I found an uncatalogued tango sheets that they are not copyright, and I found 2 more that I will not play. I am playing with a friend musician for next NASH. I will present it. That is El Toro Salvaje de José María García. That is a tango milonga and is dedicated to Argentine boxing champion. And Campeón from De la Cananea, that is dedicated to Luis Ángel Firpo. And it's interesting that the boxer treasures, you can read Brennan. Brennan is the last guy Firpo beat before Dempsey. It was in a Madison Square Garden fight, and Brennan later had to be taken to the hospital with a concussion. So, finishing. Last one. This research analyzed the context of 1923 Dempsey-Firpo fight, the racial debate surrounding the North-South American bout, but also this idea of the wild bull barbarism against civilization, but also the tango night, and converge all of the construction of a common language between Argentine, masculine, Latin, virile, and courageous. And it is possible to point, like Brenda Else did in her presentation yesterday, the enormous relationship between nationalism, sport, masculinity in Latin world. This book she mentioned of Eduardo Archetti, Masculinidades, Football, Tango y Polo in Argentina, Masculinities, Football, Tango, and Polo in Argentina. It is obviously what happened also in boxing. But although tango was forbidden, was not forbidden for women, it is clear a male domain. And it is interesting the macho idea of promiscuous, egocentric, with strong friendship with other men but never homosexual. This is the idea of tango night. And it is interesting the image that shows 2 ideas, racialized ideas of masculinity. Firpo as a tough, rough, serious, and sensitive man, and in the other, Dempsey as funny, friendly, family man. But finishing, you have some question I wanted to point out, and I want to next NASH, if I will be in person, I want to present the live music of these 2 new sheets that I found for this presentation. Thank you so much for this opportunity.